friend, I hope you're doing well. My name is Shade, and in this video I'm going to show you the 5 mistakes that you're making today and that are costing you your charisma, your confidence when you speak English. When you speak, nobody gets what you say, and it's hard for you to feel more confident about yourself and be understood when you speak, right? No matter how many grammar rules you master or no matter how much vocabulary you have, if when you speak nobody gets what you say, then it's gonna be hard for you to actually speak English fluently and feel more confident in your speaking skills. I'm gonna show you the 5 mistakes that you're making today so that you can start paying attention to it and really work on it more intentionally. And the first mistake is not to pick a specific accent. What does it mean exactly? Today in English pronunciation, you have different accents, right? You have the American accent, the British accent, the Australian accent, like you have different accents. And even if there are some common rules in English pronunciation, each accent actually has some specific things, right? Some specific sounds, some specific things that are really proper to this accent. So if you don't have a specific accent that you're speaking with and you just speak the way you want to speak, then it can be confusing for people to understand what you say, right? Let's take a small or subtle example. In American English pronunciation, you have what is called the flap T. So what is the flap T? We talk about the flap T when the T sound, that's a consonant sound, turns into a D. So a soft D, right? So when it's between two vowel sounds, right? A British native speaker is more likely to say water, right? Water, and really pronounce the T fully. While an American is more likely to say water, water, better, city, instead of city or better or butter, right?
Water.
And now I'm in hot water.
An American native speaker is more likely to turn it into a small D. So an American native speaker won't say internet. He's more likely to say internet, right?
Computer. Internet.
Radio on internet.
And he won't say how to. He's more likely to say how to. How to. I'm gonna show you how to do it, right?
How to get to Sesame Street?
How to move, how to fight.
There's another thing, for example, like the glottal stop. This is called the glottal stop, and it means that native speakers, they tend to hold the T in their throat, right? So they won't fully pronounce the T, and they're gonna hold it in the throat. So they won't say, for example, important. They're more likely to say important, important,
This is important.
or written,
Written memo.
or button, mountain. These are subtle things that if you're not aware of that and you're talking to a native speaker, it's gonna be hard for them to get you, right? Some of them may be used to different accents, but if the ones you're talking to are not necessarily used to listening to other accents, then it's gonna be hard for you to be understood. That's the first thing. Decide the accent that you're gonna learn and actually master it. It doesn't matter if it's American accent, British accent, Australian accent, it doesn't matter. Just pick one thing and be consistent with the way these people speak, right? The second thing is that you try to pronounce things the way they are written, right? I didn't say written, I said written, right? When you say these words, for example, it is written, but it's pronounced written. The way words are written can be different from the way they are pronounced, right? Because you have different sounds. You have vowel sounds, you have consonant sounds, and a letter can sound differently. Like its vowel sound can sound differently. So when you take this letter, for example, in the alphabet, it sounds like O, right? But the vowel sound is ah, right? A native speaker is more likely to say opposites. God, right? Oh my God, not oh my God, right? God, Bob.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
They're more likely to say Bob instead of Bob. Apposition. The vowel sound may be different from the vowel itself. For example, this letter, you're gonna say A or A, right? You're gonna say A like A in the alphabet. However, depending on how it's used, it may sound differently. If it's used as an article, for example, it's gonna sound like right? A car. We don't say a car, we say a car.
A car.
If it's used in some specific words, it's gonna sound like eh. This mistake is that you're trying to pronounce words the way they are written, instead of how they're actually pronounced with the different sounds in real life, and it's gonna be hard for people to understand you. Also, when we're in school, we learn with many mistakes and pronunciation mistakes because we learn generally from teachers who are non-native speakers too, and we learn with mistakes, right? So when you take this word, for example, it's written like comfortable, right? However, in real life, people say comfortable instead of comfortable. They don't say comfortable.
Comfortable.
They don't say chocolate. They say chocolate, right?
Chocolate.
If you're not aware of these kind of things and you make these kind of mistakes, it's gonna be hard for native speakers to understand you, and you also gonna feel this lack of confidence in the way you speak. Period. The third mistake that you're making today is that you don't speak fast English. You maybe think that fast English is broken English or straight English, whatever, which is not the case. This is how native speakers speak in real life. We learn to speak in chunks and saying each word separately, but native speakers, they just connect the words so that they can sound more natural and speak more fluently, right? They will connect the words, they'll delete some sounds, they'll add some sounds, they'll link them together, whatever, right? They'll turn some ta into da, right, to sound more natural. They won't say internet, they're gonna say internet, right? They're gonna say center. So they won't say most common, they're gonna say most common.
Lee, the most common surname.
And type C, the most common.
So these are little things that they do to actually sound more natural when they speak and be smoother, right? So if you don't master these kind of things, then you're gonna have some hard time speaking naturally instead of saying each word separately, right? So let's take a quick example. We have multiple roles in fast English. You have contraction, elision, all of that. I wanted to talk about a specific role, right? So when you have same consonant linking, which means that a word ends with a specific consonant, and then the next word actually starts with the same consonant, right? You tend to drop off one of the consonants and just connect it, right? A native speaker is more likely to say stop pushing instead of stop pushing, right?
I will stop pushing.
Or last time instead of last time, right? So these are little things that they do. Even presidents speak like that, right? Barack Obama speaks like that, right? They have different degrees. He may not always use a lot of contractions, whatever. However, this is how native speakers speak in real life. Like they connect the words, they use some contractions to really be more natural when they speak. So you have to learn how to speak English fast so you can understand native speakers and also speak more naturally and confidently. Number 4. So the fourth mistake that you're making today is that you don't have a clear system to improve your pronunciation, right? So you have a passive pronunciation instead of an active and intentional pronunciation. What do I mean by that? Well, when we're in school, we tend to just sit down and take notes and listen to the teacher, right? And we don't necessarily really speak, right? But the thing with the pronunciation is that the way you make sounds with your mouth is actually impacted by your native language, where you are from, different languages that you may already speak, the people around you and their accent. So you really need to be intentional about the way you produce sounds with your mouth until it actually becomes the norm in the way you speak. So you really have to learn how to make your mouth make some specific sounds correctly until this becomes the way you speak naturally. So you won't be able to do that by just listening to things or by just doing some shadowing, right? You need to understand what's happening there so that when you do the exercises, your mouth can actually produce a sound so that you can sound more natural and start getting some progress. So this is not something where you just watch videos and you just listen to it and you do nothing. This is really something where you have to go out there and actually do the exercises and produce the sounds with your mouth so that you can start getting some transformation. Finally, the fifth mistake that you're making today is that you don't stress words properly. So what is word stress? Word stress is the emphasis that you put on a specific syllable in a word. Let's take these words, for example. It has 2 syllables, right? So you can either say present, so you stress the second syllable, or you say present, so you stress the first syllable. And I remember when I had a call with my teacher a couple of months ago, the first call, she told me, oh, Shade, native speakers, they don't say understand, because I used to stress the first syllable. They don't say understand, they say understand. So they stress the last syllable.
I understand.
I was like, okay. And then another teacher told me, oh, native speakers, they don't say recognize, they say recognize.
Recognize.
They don't say recognize, they say recognize. I was like, oh, and then I started to pay attention to it, the way people would speak, right? And from there, I realized that, oh, actually, why is it that important? They can just get what I say, it doesn't really matter. However, the way you stress words has an impact on the meaning of the words, right? So let's come back to the example of these words, right? If you stress the first syllable, present, it means like present, like the present moment, or a gift, like the present, like I'm offering you a present, right? Or I'm present, like I'm present with you right now.
Did you bring us presents? So you could be in the present moment.
However, if you stress the second syllable and say present, it means something totally different, right? So it means to present something, to make a presentation, right?
So it presents representationally.
You see that both are not the same thing at all, right? So if you're talking to someone and you don't stress a word correctly, and it can have another meaning and the person may not get what you say, right? Same thing, like let's take these other words. If you say record, it means recording a presentation, recording a video, or recording something, right?
Bought me a video recorder?
However, when you say record, it means something totally different, right? It can be a track record, or like, do you understand what I mean?
The record.
Oh, the record.
Yeah.
So you really have to learn how to stress words properly, because the way you stress words is going to have an impact on the way you sound, the way people receive your message and understand what you say. So if you always have to repeat yourself multiple times, these are probably some of the reasons why.